Do you struggle with self-doubt in your relationship? Are you constantly questioning your choices or looking for your partner's validation? Now, maybe you often sit in analysis paralysis, not taking action out of fear of making the wrong choice. Or maybe you say you'll do things that you don't really want to do in order to be nice, but then really struggle to follow through, making you question your own word. Do you find it difficult to trust yourself when you're making decisions? Because if so, this episode is exactly what you need to hear.
Welcome to Create Your Happy. Happiness Hussy Christy Holt here, ready for some real talk about creating healthy, loving relationships that make you truly fucking happy. Let's dive in.
Hey, gorgeous human. Welcome back to the Create Your Happy podcast. I'm your host, Christy Holt, your one and only happiness hussy, and today we are going to be exploring a powerful topic that affects every relationship that you will ever have. That topic is self-trust. Now, building trust in yourself is not just about being confident, it's about how you connect with others, how you set boundaries, and how you show up authentically in your relationships. So let's start unpacking how trusting yourself can lead to healthier, more aligned connections, and how you can start building that self-trust today. Self-trust is foundational for every relationship that you are going to have, because if you don't trust yourself, it becomes really difficult to trust others as well. When you doubt your own decisions, you'll start to look outside of yourself for validation, for approval, for direction, often leading yourself into a cycle of insecurity and dependence on other people. And if people-pleasing has been a pattern for you, you may find that this also adds another layer to the self-doubt because you've probably said yes when you meant no a whole shit ton of times. And then, let me guess, you felt guilty for not following through. Perhaps you have also just kept your own thoughts and needs and desires quiet in order to keep the peace and maintain the relationship. Instead of, causing tension between you and someone else, you have essentially started causing tension and conflict to arise within yourself. Maybe you find yourself constantly asking for reassurance from your partner, not because you really need their help, but because you're unsure of your own judgment. This is where the cycle begins, and it can really wear on any relationship, creating stress where there simply doesn't need to be any. So let's talk about moving from self-doubt to self-trust. Here's the good news. Self-trust is like a muscle. You can build it over time, and the key to that is starting small. Now, one simple exercise in self-trust that you can do right now is to make one small promise to yourself, and you can do this every single day. One small promise to yourself, and then keep it. It doesn't have to be a big, life-altering promise. It can be something small, like today I'm going to take a 10-minute break just for myself. And then, when you follow through on that promise to yourself, you can celebrate that moment, and you know that you can be trusted. Your actions now tell you that you can be trusted. And over time, these small yet simple actions in building self-trust will help you to lean on and rely on your own inner guidance even more. Now, self-trust directly impacts how well you can set and uphold boundaries in your relationships as well, right? If you don't trust yourself, you're going to have a really difficult time standing by your needs and, communicating them clearly to others. Now, as we talked about in the boundaries episode, healthy boundaries are not about pushing people away. They're actually about creating space and inviting people in to mutual respect and honoring of both your needs and theirs. And here's the thing, boundaries are an act of love. When you set them, you're not only protecting your energy, but you're also teaching those loved ones around you how to love and respect and honor you. So for more information on this topic, I encourage you to check out the episode about boundaries because I do go deeper, into why they're so essential for every relationship and why they're such an important piece of your authentic expression. And if you are ready to break free from any of those people-pleasing tendencies, learn to trust yourself fully, my program Authenticity Unleashed is designed to help you do exactly that because it is about turning inwards into yourself and living authentically allowing love to overflow rather than this constant need to seek validation, approval, acceptance, and love from others or from serving others. Now, something that's really important to remember is that when you say no to the things that you don't really want, or like those maybe nah, it's okay, nah, it'll do. When we start saying no to those things, you create space for those fuck yes experiences, those things and relationships and people and experiences that you really, really do want. This allows you to create more of the life that you really want, and a life that lights you the fuck up, ready, full of all of those fuck yes things. That is what you deserve. So self-doubt, let's be real here, because self-doubt is often rooted in past experiences or in deep-seated beliefs that we may well have been carrying for years. Maybe you had a relationship where your decisions were constantly questioned, or potentially you grew up in an environment where you just didn't feel like your voice mattered. Now, over time, these experiences and your responses to them shape your belief system. And of course, if this is a common occurrence where your voice isn't valued or your decisions are thrown into question, often self-doubt can become your default. Now, this is not your fault. And the best thing is that you can change all of this. The solution, however, is not about fixing the external. It's actually about shifting your internal narrative. You have to start by recognizing where that self-doubt came from, observing it, looking at the situations where it began, observing the process and patterning your response to it, and getting curious, asking yourself, is this belief serving me anymore? Because more often than not, it's not. And acknowledging where these stories and beliefs began can help you to rewrite them. And this is how you begin to rebuild your self-trust. So I invite you to briefly consider exploring, whether this be through contemplation, meditation, or journaling practice, a time where self-doubt got in the way of connecting with someone else. Some questions to ponder are, how did that self-doubt affect your relationship? What was the implication? And then, so that we can look to potential solutions, consider what would have gone differently if you trusted yourself more, right? This line of questioning, this open curiosity and compassionate self-inquiry is a powerful catalyst when it comes to rebuilding self-trust, because it helps you to better understand yourself, right? Without the blame and the shame, because that is not helpful, but to shift your perspective when it comes to trusting yourself and your decisions. And eventually, this self-trust will blossom and bloom and help you to develop even more trusting relationships with others as well. Now, guilt can be a massive blocker, a massive, massive block to self-trust. You might feel guilty for prioritizing your own needs. We've been conditioned with the good girl conditioning that says that we should be giving and we shouldn't be taking. And so oftentimes we feel guilty for prioritizing our own needs or wants, or even for making decisions that others just don't agree with. But here's the thing, trusting yourself is not selfish. No more than self-care is selfish. It's actually essential for healthy relationships. Besides that, guilt is something that feels like you're doing something, but in actuality, the only thing that you're doing is anchoring further into your own suffering and pain. Now, in my earlier episode this season about letting go of guilt, I shared about how guilt can keep us stuck, replaying those same patterns. So if you're feeling guilty for choosing yourself or for making decisions that may or may not have gone your way, or for doing things that you need to do to protect your peace or fully express yourself, I do highly recommend revisiting that episode, because it's just so important to remember that it's not selfish to trust yourself. It's actually an act of self-love, and honoring yourself is one way to really enhance your relationship with yourself and then with others as well. So let me just share a quick little story with you about a woman who struggled with self-trust. This woman relied on her partner often to make decisions. She was actually really afraid of making the wrong choice and feeling like a burden. She didn't want to feel like a burden anywhere. The good girl conditioning told her that she shouldn't want to feel like a burden. And after all, she had made some decisions in the past that she wasn't particularly proud of. She still felt a little bit guilty and ashamed when she thought about them. And so not only did she outsource her decisions, but if she had to actually make a decision for herself, she would pore over research and logic. Hello, analysis paralysis. She would literally have done anything to avoid making the wrong decision, including refusing to make a decision at all. Thinking like you can't make a decision wrong, like you can't make the wrong decision if you just don't decide, right? Wrong. Because not deciding, as it turns out, is actually a form of deciding. It's just that when you don't choose for yourself, someone else will choose for you or life will choose for you, and you can pretty much bet that their choice will not necessarily be the same one that you would have made, right? So over time, this lack of decision-making power really actually ended up making her feel very resentful, very disconnected from her own voice. She couldn't trust her voice. She didn't trust her own voice. And it came to a moment where, after years of blaming her partner, she realized that the real issue here was her own lack of self-trust. Do you recognize yourself in this story at all, at any point in your life? I know I do, because this is a former version of me. And the truth is, once I, began to make small promises to myself, like deciding what I'd like to do for dinner or what I'd like to do this weekend or the things that I'd like to experience in this life, I slowly built up the confidence to trust my own choices. This was a process of getting to know myself. And it wasn't actually just a win for me, because it actually allowed me to show up completely differently in relationship. It allowed me to show up as an equal partner instead of someone who is codependent on someone else to help ease the pain of making decisions. Now, your story might not be the same, but the key takeaway is pretty universal. And that is, the more you trust yourself, the more empowered you become in all of your relationships. So here is a practical yet so simple action step that you can take every day, starting today. And that is just, at the end of the day, I invite you to reflect on one decision that you made. It doesn't matter how small or how big it is. And just acknowledge the fact that you trusted yourself, that you put the trust in yourself to make that decision. Like maybe you chose what to eat for dinner. Amazing. Or maybe you said no to something that didn't actually feel right for you. I'm celebrating you. Looking for examples every day to celebrate where you're building self-trust allows you to acknowledge your growth with pride, because the small decisions that you make every day are actually laying the foundation for greater trust, both with self and with others. And as we wrap up here, remember that trusting yourself is key when it comes to unlocking stronger, healthier relationships. The more that you lean into your own guidance, your own intuition, the less you'll need this external validation, and the more aligned your relationships will be. Now, before I let you go, I'm thrilled to remind you about my brand new book, Love Unstuck, which is absolutely packed with tools and insights designed to help you navigate life, love, and your relationship with yourself. And this book includes sections dedicated to hearing your own intuition and building self-trust. So I encourage you to grab a copy today. And if you're not sure if Love Unstuck is for you, you can also grab a quick little sneak peek, look inside the book, and you'll find the link for that below as well. So thank you so much for tuning in today. I want to extend a massive permission slip for you to just lean in to trusting yourself, trusting the journey, and trusting that this messy, fucking beautiful adventure that is life and love will always lead you exactly where you are meant to be. I love you. Now let's go do some epic shit, shall we?
Thanks for listening. Sharing what I know about creating healthy, happy relationships means the world to me. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, comment, leave a review, and share it with a friend. For additional links and resources and ways to connect, please check the show notes. Now get out there, have fun, be you, and create your happy.